Well, if you're a policy maker or an emergency services worker, you had your work cut out by the recent weather. The rest of us, well, not so much. To date, policies regarding hot weather haven't been proven to be very successful. And the recent weather conditions have caused the emergency services to have to treat it as a national emergency. For the rest of us, though, not such a serious issue, providing we take sensible steps. You might want to reconsider talk about the serious crisis of the heat wave then. Well, I recently reported widespread fear that the hot weather would cause many people to die. Well, I'd just like to look at how realistic those fears are. Well, about 3 years ago, the temperatures reached about 37 degrees maximum. I think that was in Cambridgeshire. Health authorities from the time estimated that sadly about 572 people died as a result of the heat. Well, this year, as widely been presented on newspapers, the temperature reached over 40 degrees in some places, just briefly, just for a tiny bit. So, sadly, the results are likely to be at least similar to what occurred before. Is it fair, then, as some newspapers have claimed, to treat this as a cause of national misery and Britain at a standstill, when some coastal shops at least claim the opposite is true? They've never had it so good. For them, the warm weather has actually promoted essential trade for the first time since the global pandemic. Now, I'm really not belittling the severe trauma of so many families that would have lost loved ones from a heat wave. One lost member of a family is severe enough. But does it justify headlines like "Britain at a standstill," "National crisis," "Hell on earth"? That's the other one. Now, these are not just sensationalist terms of newspapers trying to grab a few more sales. This is major authorities and the emergency services. Hang on, though. I'm sorry to say that in Britain, vast numbers of people die accidentally in the home. 6,000 people died last year, sadly, and half of these deaths were just from falling over. And around 10 of the people that died falling fell trying to put their socks on. Now, we don't label being at home a national disaster, do we? We don't get being at home warnings from the Met Office. Newspapers don't refer to it as a national crisis or Britain at a standstill. But I'm far more likely to die at home than out in the sun. Now, the grim warnings are justified by saying we're educating people about staying alive. To me, the obvious question is at what cost? Like most years, in 2020, nearly 5,000 people sadly died from suicide. Doesn't it really stink raising the anxiety of emotionally vulnerable people, giving them horror stories about impending doom, and claiming it's all because of man over global warming, yet overlooking that all of the universe is heating anyway without man's impact. All the while, though, this great tragedy that's attributed to industrial pollution is something common around the rest of the world. Many countries have thousands of years experienced these kind of temperatures on a daily basis. So if we want to be consistent, we ought to issue global weather warnings, but also point out that you're 12 times more likely to die in your own home. What a miserable life then, apparently. When I'm warned about dying in a heat wave, but I'm far more likely to die spending a year in my own home.